Hi, everybody. I'm up here in the corner, and I am, as you guys know me, but Tracy Ann Moore Grant, the founder of the Amicable Divorce Network. And today is our Amicable Hour for members only, and we have a wonderful speaker today, Storey Jones. Everybody, I think, will remember having this meeting and hearing about this software for the first time. She is the founder of dtour.life. It's great financial software to help you with all of your cases across the board. So I am going to turn it over to Storey to do a presentation for us on this great software. And Storey, I do have screen sharing on. If you would like to utilize that for your presentation, you're ready to go. Storey Jones.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Tracy. It has been such a pleasure to meet Tracy, and I had a chance to meet Dennis and show him the software just a couple days ago, I think. And I'm really thrilled to be here. As Tracy mentioned in the beginning, our values and philosophy as we built dtour.life is so aligned with the Amicable Divorce Network. So I'm just thrilled to have been introduced to the network and to talk to you about how we feel we can continue to support this group and this building of this practice and network moving forward. We came into the industry very committed to really providing what I'll refer to as kind of the digital infrastructure to support the industry from a holistic perspective. All client experiences, we all know clients come in all different shapes and sizes. So to really support the client experience as well as all the different shapes and sizes of professionals. And it's a bit of a daunting task because, as we know, practitioners have a lot of different ways they manage their practices. Sometimes if you're working on a collaborative case or a amicable divorce network case, a mediated case, or traditional. And with the different types of clients, there are different types of processes. So what we tried to do is deliver, as Tracy said, an intuitive experience to make it easier for clients to provide you with all that data and for you to work as a team with all of the stakeholders. So I'm going to share my screen and just take you through a demo. And I guess we don't really have kind of a Q&A opportunity here, but I suppose if anyone is here who wants to put a question in chat, we can get to that. But I'll try.
Pretty informal. So if anybody has a question in real time, jump in because I'm sure somebody else has that question.
Absolutely. It's much easier for me to make it more interactive because I try to touch on things that I think are meaningful, but sometimes I'll gloss over something that someone wants to know more about, and I'd love to make sure I really answer all of your questions. So I've logged in now as a professional, and the key to dtour.life is that we really believe we have a connection with the human experience of divorce. And when I say human experience, spouses have a particular type of experience coming through divorce, and professionals have a very different experience. Lots of cases to manage, lots of work to get to. So we have different avenues through it. So I've logged in as a professional, and I'm now looking at what we describe as our case list dashboard. These are fictitious cases for purposes of a demo. I can view them as case cards, or I can certainly view them alphabetically. And the way we describe this is it's basically your digital file drawer, and you're just going to pull out a case file and begin your day. So I have a case here called the Conroy case with a lot of data that I'm going to use to share. The second I click into that file, I am now in the case with my client and with anybody invited to it. So basically, this is our digital dashboard for the team. And again, coming back to that idea of being very flexible, it might be a workflow where it's traditional. Marilyn is the client. Marilyn and her attorney are working on this together. There might be a paralegal invited, another associate at the firm, a financial expert. Anybody on the team can be invited here and be working on this case. In the case of the mediated case, where we're comfortable working with a transparent data collection, then Marilyn and Tom and the mediator would be working on this together. Collaborative, same thing, fully transparent, both attorneys, financial neutral, two clients. So it's a very flexible workflow. Everything we do here, we take a very visual approach. Again, with clients, we're really trying to de-escalate some of the tension and the fear and really make the process easier for them to become engaged and actually take a little more responsibility about what they need to get you completely and accurately, and make it easier for you to kind of get to what you need to get to in order to move a case forward. Under the hood, this is multi-million-dollar software with a lot of encryption technology and a lot of robust logic and databases, but we display everything very simplified. So I'm just going to click through some features and take you through it from a demo perspective. I'll start with the family section. We have a page on each spouse, a page on the actual relationship, a page on the children, and all of the aggregate data, the summary data, flows into what we call the case profile. So one click into the case, and here I have at my fingertips the facts of the case. So in this case, we have the date of marriage, length of marriage. If it is a litigated case, we have space for that data. We have the age and gender of the spouses, the contact information, employment information, what do each of them earn, education, tax filing status. It's a combination of data that a professional needs on day one of the case to kind of get a sense as to what's going on with this family, data that might be required for the state filing forms, and data that will be needed at the end for writing a stipulation and drafting settlement agreements. This shows you who's on the team, etc. Then we have a page on each spouse that takes all that summary data and digs a little deeper. So for instance, with Marilyn, now we have her social security number. We have that she wants to restore her former name, more data about where she's lived for the last couple of years, more about employment, et cetera, et cetera. So very much the structure of dtour.life is all of the reports are summaries, and then we can drill down to the detail. With the children, for example, we have the three cards representing the three kids. If I click on any of the children, now I get their social, where they're in school, all of their addresses for a lot of the state forms that are required. If it's a special needs situation or a therapist or any kind of support needed, you have the expert listed, notes, documentation attached to that child, etc. So that is an overview of the family section. As you can see, it's a very visual, easy to navigate, easy to add data process. And in a little bit, I'll actually show you how the clients begin to engage and enter that data. But first, I think I'll just run through some features. So the asset and debt section, I particularly am a fan of because the feedback we get. We really believe that a lot of our clients have trouble, and frankly, a lot of professionals have trouble with Excel spreadsheets because it's a lot of tiny little numbers, except Dennis. He's the exception. After meeting with Dennis, he's very good at his Excel spreadsheets. But a lot of those tiny little numbers and those tiny columns and all of that, we really want to help clients, as I said, take a little more responsibility and engage with with their financials and have a little more familiarity with it. So we designed what we describe as a 3-tier kind of asset and debt system. So we start with summary cards. We start with what are all the chess pieces, if you will, in this family. We have a couple houses, a few cars, some bank accounts, retirement accounts, life insurance, and so on and so forth. And we pulled to these cards some ownership suggestions here, which, with further analysis, you might identify that it actually is separate or is marital. We pull up the equity number. And then at the top here, we have kind of an overview of what's happening. And then debts, we represent the same way. What we've discovered with clients is that it is much easier for them to spot if something's inaccurate or if something's missing, or and it's nice in the beginning of a case for a professional, again, to just get a feel for what's here. But then behind each asset and debt card is all the detail. So now we know who's on title. We know quite critically early in the case, how much does it cost to carry this asset? Is it even viable that one of the spouses would be able to handle it? Who is on mortgage? Could they requalify to carry the asset? Information about separate property contributions, if applicable. Notes. We pull footnotes to the net worth report about particular assets if relevant. And again, what documentation is attached to each asset and each debt? Do we have the bank statement? Do we have the appraisal? Do we have the mortgage statement, etc.? So the summary card, the detail page, and then all of that data flows into the net worth report. And for all the reports, again, it's about a visual display. We have found that in the age of Zoom, it's particularly helpful when we're conducting online consults, online meetings with our professionals or mediations, that we have such a visual landscape so that when everyone is dialing in, it's a little easier to talk through things. Very simplified summary. Then we pull, of course, all of the data in. We can link back to discover where those values came from. We separate, as with any traditional divorce financials, we separate out the debt, we separate out the retirement, and we pull in the footnotes. Often in a case, once we've agreed to separate property, it can be a bit of a distraction. So we do have a toggle that we added. My Zoom controls are in the way. There we go. Where we can, click that off and just be focused on the property allocation for settlement. And then all of that data, also we take it one step further and we flow into what we call a marital estate worksheet. And it's interesting. This was a tool that we designed really as kind of a back of the napkin. What would it look like to start allocating property? And we're finding recently that this is becoming one of our more popular tools. And so we are actively adding additional functionality to it as I speak. So the idea here is it pulls in each item with marital value. You can go through and you can choose to allocate a percentage or a dollar amount. It will automatically calculate for you. And then as you allocate an item, it will track the percentage up here. And so then we have an equalization. So in this particular example, we've already allocated everything and then we've equalized it at the bottom. And with this particular tool, you can duplicate it. You can rename it, just change a couple of entries. I'll just show you what one looks like blank. We have a $2 million estate value here. And so if I want to allocate this 50-50, that's how it would look. We've started to allocate 2%. If I do 20-80, it changes how we're tracking it. And so that's how you go through that. We're, as I said, updating this and adding more value to it. You can add notes to try to explain why a certain allocation has occurred and rename it anything you like. So that is that tool. And so I've done family and assets and debts. Before I go to income and expenses, does anyone have any questions? I guess someone will interrupt me if questions come in. I'll now talk a little bit about income and expenses. So I've been in this industry about 20 years, working as a consultant, trying to help families provide all the data, choose the right attorneys, and move through the process. And one of the massive pain points was always getting the income and expense data. People really don't understand what they spend. Those state forms are so difficult because usually you're handwriting them in or fillable PDFs, and the numbers are all over the map. And I never felt that they actually allowed a comprehensive picture of what was actually going in and out. So we've built a manual and a synced experience. So first I'll show the manual. If I click income, again, as very much part of our brand promise, a very visual experience. This is Marilyn's income. This is Tom's. Joint would be a joint business or a rental property or something that they're earning together. And then in this case, I just have a W-2 employment, but of course, we have all of the fields available for any type of income that might be relevant to this case. And you can add a file if you add a W-2 or a paycheck stub or any documentation, an employment agreement, any documentation, it would all be right here on the income. And then we have a manual entry for expenses. Again, a very visual, easy to follow process here and very simple. So for instance, let's just say I'm going to add, we'll do a child related expense. I have a child, well, in this case, there are 3, add expense. All I do is I put in soccer. Let's just say it's $250 a month. You can see it's auto saved. And then because this is associated with one of my children, I can just select here and say Isabel's the $250 is really a child related expense for Isabel every month. Another example would be if, and we run, I should say, we run a table of all those children's expenses. And I'll show you that in a minute with the I&E report. If it's an expense that's associated with carrying an asset or carrying a debt, then I could call it a utility, and then here I could assign it to one of the properties. And that is where any of the assets or debts that I've uploaded, and that's where we pull back and we actually track the carrying costs of that particular item. Then, so that's the manual experience. And the way this works is it's just very easy to just continue to add, additional expenses throughout. What we really like, of course, when we started this years ago, the idea of having digital management was, completely breakthrough. Now we kind of expect digital management, but the nice thing is for clients is dtour.life gives clients a place to go. A lot of our clients feel unmoored. They walk out of a consult or they turn their Zoom off after a consult and they have all this paperwork and emails and PDFs, and they just don't really have a sense of a grounding. This really gives them a place to continue to come in, add a few things, come back, add some more. And I think that contributes to their feeling of a little bit more of control in the process. The bank sync is very exciting. Because we're the only platform specifically dedicated to divorce that has built this technology that we connect with a technology that allows you to sync to all of your financial institutions, pull in all of your primary source data. And that, of course, as you all know, it's gold because it's instantaneous. And we've all been on those cases where the bank statements come flooding in emails, 100 emails with different statements. They get collated somewhere, they get printed out, the transactions are highlighted, trying to make sense of the financial picture here. And we really feel that that's a huge contributing factor to time and cost. So if we can make it easier and faster for everybody, we all win. So we use the industry standard, it's called Plaid. Your client comes in, clicks link accounts, and this is what their experience is. And it's great because any institution that you can imagine, even if it's a small one in your hometown, if you just search for it, you will likely find it. And your client experience is they just click the bank. And what they are doing here, which is I think very important in today's security world, is they just type in, they're logging in to bankofamerica.com. So if you have a transparent mediated case on here, and you've got Jane Doe and John Doe both on the case. Jane clicks Bank of America, logs in. She's logging into her with her credentials on that website. If John Doe logs into his, no one sees each other's credentials. The lawyers don't see it. dtour.life doesn't see it. So it's a very secure way for them to replicate the process of handing you bank statements. They're just privately logging in and giving you their transaction data. So I'll get out of that and just show you, I've linked these. These are demo accounts, so the numbers are a little wacky and the names are wacky, but it would bring in all of the accounts within an institution. So that's the first step, and you just can link as many as necessary. And then click transactions, and this is where all the primary source data comes in. The wonderful thing about it is we have a date picker, so you can track transactions in a particular window of time. You can, if you just want to see what's on, coming into her account or what's on his credit card, you can filter that way. You can filter by what's been assigned to, business expenses or personal expenses. All of this data can be downloaded to a CSV. And then just like with the manual entry, any of these expenses can be customized. So your client can come in here and can say, well, that was mapped to vacations, but actually that was to take my child to camp. So I actually want that associated with the child expense. So I choose the category and then I choose the child. Similarly, like I pointed out with utilities, which is just the easiest example, I can assign utilities to a property. And again, it links back to that particular detail page. And of course, I can split transactions. And then when I click view report, all of that data pulls in. And so on a case where one spouse doesn't have access to the spouse's credentials and they're not both on here, or one doesn't want to link accounts for any reason, we run a merged report. So you can run a report that's just primary source, real data, manually entered data, or a merged report. And then you can check by month to see what's come in and what's gone out. Again, hopefully you're going to see more green than our demo here. And then you can see the detail. where did that money, what category is that money from? Sometimes we have earners who have a big chunk that comes in, twice a year. And so you can actually track it by monthly average. And then the expenses. And again, we have been told for online mediation, this is often an effective tool for directing all of the emotion to the financial facts, to what's really happening here, so that settlement decisions, lifestyle choices, that becomes more of the focus than any of the emotional issues with the couple. And then down below, here are the reports. And again, these can be downloaded separately. We've associated these expenses. So this is the monthly cost for this child, the monthly average. This is the monthly cost for this child, monthly average, etc. And then that data is pulled into a spending plan. And this is a little bit more rudimentary, but it's the same idea where now, as the same idea as the marital estate worksheet, where you can create multiple versions. So let's just say it pulls in our current inputs for income. And then you have an opportunity to do some scenarios. She's about to get a bonus. She's going to work less, whatever the change, or have child support or spousal support, you could add that. And then you can look at what expenses you want to add that didn't pre-exist, and expenses that you want to divide, or what percentage they will be assuming. And then you can create kind of a forward-looking financial scenario. And the same type of experience where with this 3-dot menu, you can duplicate, you can rename, you can delete any of those spending plans. So I'm going to go on to a couple of other features. We've done family, assets and debts, income and expense. This is a feature that we are very proud of because it's so robust and functional. The pain point that we want to solve with the document repository is the idea that you have all of these case files and you get all these emails with all these documents, and where do they go? And I've worked with so many professionals who it's always an organizational nightmare to try to find everything. So we felt that if we connected all of the documents, every piece of paper for this case to the case, it could be very valuable. So one-click documents in the Conroy case, here is every single piece of paper attached to this case. You can add folders and name them anything you want and move anything into it with a drag and drop. You can actually drag, you can do the traditional add document. It will look on your hard drive and you can select, or you just drag it right in here and drop it. So it's a very easy repository to work with. And what's great is your clients can they're working in here, they're adding data, they just upload everything directly here. Your team can also upload, and everyone has access to it, all the stakeholders. So you have folders, and then we have the icon to tell you what type of file it is. Sometimes it's helpful if you're looking for that Excel or that Word doc. Your client can add notes. Two other things that are really valuable is that this is the bane of our existence, is getting all of these scans, right? What is it? So again, you can open it, understand, identify it, and then just rename it and say, well, that is that, Schwab. I'll put my glasses on to type effectively here. We'll say that's the, statement, and then submit it. And then once I change the name, this then it's always going to hold it. So if I download it to my desktop or share it with anyone else, it will always have that name with it. And then the other piece to this that we get a lot of feedback on is that, as I showed you before, we have documents associated with each asset. So when you're in the mindset of kind of what's going on with this particular account, and you're really looking at all the data around this account, you can see here that there's a bank statement here. So any document you upload here is automatically in the document repository. So it's either attached to a person or an expense or an item. It's also in the document repository. And if you upload it directly to the document repository, all you have to do is tag it to the particular item. So you could have a medical expense for a child and it would be tagged in both places. So it's just a nice way of identifying all the paper that's still unfortunately required in all these cases. So the case settings, so this is where you control who has access to the case. So when you create a case, you would come in here and this would all be blank. It would only have the name of the person who created the case. And this is where you invite your client, and you can invite the second client if applicable. You can assign privileges. We often suggest you start with admin because it certainly allows everyone to do everything: upload, edit, change data, enter data. For professionals, you invite them separately because they have a professional dashboard. I'm going to go back to that in a minute. And again, even with a professional, it might be that you're inviting a tax consultant and you just want them to download or view the income and expense report. So you can give them just view only privileges so no data is changed, however you want to manage that particular relationship. So this is where everybody can see who has eyes on the case. So nobody can come into this case without being authorized. And we have baked in multi-factor authentication. We actually launched with that, which few startups do. So it's a very secure, and all the encryption coming in and going out. It's a very secure cloud-based platform. We have a relatively new feature that's still very simple. It's in beta, but we called case notes. And when I say it's in beta, that means that it's pretty simple. We haven't added a lot of bells and whistles, but we had kind of a huge amount of request for a place where everyone could capture notes on the case. So it's fully transparent. This can't be a private note between you and your paralegal about a difficult call, but this can be where you put up an agenda for the next meeting, or you can take notes, or you can put kind of a to-do list for your client, etc. And we will continue, as we get more feedback, we'll continue to enhance it with a little more functionality as we understand what you all might want or need. And then what I want to do is go back to the case list, because this is the professional dashboard. So when you log in, only you see this and your cases. If your paralegal or another professional is logging in, they only see the cases to which they've been invited. But we have a really important and valuable tool here called the activity log. This is also, by the way, where you can archive cases. And what's great is any case that's on hold or has settled, you just drag it in there. Well, actually, there's a toggle you click to put it in archive cases, but with one click, you can reopen it. So you have immediate access to cases. Remember the old days where you'd have to drive to the storage unit. It's right here. But the activity log is incredibly valuable. We actually, it's going to take a minute to download because of all my clicking. We track every keystroke on the platform. So as a result, when you have 5 people on a case, you will be able to see who uploaded the bank statement, who entered the value of the house, who changed the value of the house, who added an expense, etc. So we learned very early from launch that professionals loved the idea that everybody could come in and add and edit and upload, but they wanted to have a little control as to who was behind all of that activity. So we actually have an activity log. Unfortunately, there's a lot of data it captures because every single click I just did, it captured, but there it is. So now I can look into every case that I have on my dashboard, or I can look at anybody I've invited to any case across the board and track activity. But you saw that I changed that PDF to Schwab. It's my name, today's date and time. You saw that I added a utility. You saw that I associated it to the house. You saw that I added soccer, etc. So it's a nice way of kind of seeing what exactly transpired, who did it, and when they did it. So that is a really important feature for professionals. I think one of the last things I want to show you, I have to look back here. I want to talk to you a little bit about your client's experience. So the question I always get when I run through this is, all right, it looks great, but how does all that data get in there? And one of the pain points that we're trying very hard to address is that process of getting you data. We want to actually offload as much as possible to the clients, more of the responsibility to get it to you in, again, an accurate and complete manner. Now, for clients who are not interested in the computer or want to pay you to do it, the wonderful thing is you have the same experience. So you can still do it, but it's going to be a nice, easy experience. But traditionally, when you invite your client, when you create a case, you then go into case settings, as I showed you, when you invite your client, and then they get a link. I'm just going to click on a case here where so they get a link and they sign up. It's complimentary to them. Only one professional pays for one case. Everyone invited, it's complimentary. So your client gets the link, and this is what their experience is. We call it a wizard, which might be more of a technical term, but essentially in the Jane and John Doe case, Jane got the link, she answered the first 4 questions, and now she's going to answer the next few questions. I think I started this, frankly, in another demo. So just put in some information. I'll just continue. I have not been married previously in this particular case. I have never served in the military. That's for all of the forms. Let's say I have hired a professional, and I'll just put Lawyer Joe as a lawyer. And so this is how, again, this is a natural language wizard. And then in just a few minutes, although I can't, talk and type at the same time, all of this information, this is how it is put into the platform. User experience research shows us that just 4 questions and then give them a landing place, and then 4 questions and give them a landing place, so that you have a sense of having accomplished something. So now I'll put in my spouse's birthday. Why don't we make it today, whatever today is. I have no idea of the age. I'll make it up. I'll say assign a gender. I'll say he's employed. And we just get a lot of feedback that this is incredibly gentle and easy. I can never spell. And then again, the same question. So we have the duplicate questions for the spouse, and that's how that bio information gets in there. So it's a nice experience. And then again, if it's you entering it for them, sometimes we'll have a paralegal on the phone with the client, just clicking through and filling it in. It just really depends on the style of relationship that you want with your client. So that's what we call our onboarding wizard for and your client experience. And then after the bio sections are completed, then this takes them through the financials. And it's just the high level real estate, some retirement accounts, investment accounts, simple. And then when you land on the case, then you can tab through some of those assets and debts and just start to add. We've really tried to replicate. We find in this process that you kind of get 10% of the data on the first day, and you get another 10%, and then you might get 20%. So this collaborative experience helps you to just monitor how much data you're collecting along the way, and it's just an iterative process of getting everything you need in order to progress forward. The last feature I'll show you, since we still have a little more time, is the parenting plan. We are, very much behind the concept of parenting plans. We really try to use the term custody as a little as possible, and so we have built a tool called the parenting plan agreement section. We have not yet built the schedule. I have in my head the schedule I want to build, but my engineers keep telling me that it looks like a calendar should be very easy to code, but it's incredibly complex. And because there are so many other great calendars that have been built to address this, we haven't quite tackled it yet. But we started with the agreement section, and this tool is used in a number of ways. The way it works is family would come in here, and you can view a sample agreement, because a lot of times it's, what is a parenting plan? What does it look like? What are the kinds of things that I actually have to think about? Like, oh boy, I have to think about, who holds on to the passports, and I have to think about, how often or how quickly I want to hear about anything happening with my child when they're not with me, that kind of thing. So we use this tool often to help spouses learn about and prepare to discuss and build a parenting agreement. So we have all of the sections here. These are pretty standard across all the plans that we've seen from different states, with all the kind of super categories, if you will. And then within each category, we have subcategories. So it might be that you go through here and you say, okay, let's see, this applies to this particular case with these children. This applies and this applies, but not all the others. Or you might come through here and you might say, oh, okay, well, every single one of these applies, so I'm going to just select all of them. So this gives you kind of a feel for what applies. And then in each section, all of this is editable. We preload it with very neutral language to kind of give a guide for how people can think about it. But it might be that you say, all right, that is not how we're going to do it. And you can customize the language, or you can just edit, some of the words here, that might make it applicable to your situation. We also have, just have to move my Zoom controls again. We also have a custom subcategory. So if we've missed something, sometimes with families, there's a particular ritual or religious or nutrition or something that applies to them, so you can customize it. And we found for families that this has been a great tool to kind of prep clients for the conversation. In some cases, we've had teams actually build and write the parenting plan live on the platform. It just depends on what is, what works for your case. And then once all of that is filled out, this is where you can preview and see what, the agreement that you've drafted is. So that is the parenting plan tool. Tracy, we've got another, I think, 15 minutes or so. I think I hit on all the highlights. Again, this is more of a demo than a tutorial there. Oh, you know what? I am going to show you one other kind of tip that I like to show because I think we have a lot of mediators here. We really are, we listen to our users, and we are constantly adding features and functionality as a response to what users ask for. And we had a lot of mediators really love this platform. A lot of mediators said that one of the sticking points in a mediation is value of assets, value of the house, value of a business, value. And of course, we can all go out and get appraisals and go out and get business valuations, et cetera. But often mediators want to know kind of where we stand and where the sticking points are. So we actually, oh, you know what? Let me go to a case where this is what it looks like before a client has entered any data. So you can see they add, and I'll actually also mention here, we have a lot of users that don't have a lot of assets, and they might have a lot of debt, but they might not even own real estate. They might have a car, they might have an account. So it's a very flexible platform because very visually you can kind of see what's going on here. Or we also have cases with many, many, many millions of dollars and lots of cards. I think I saw one user with 20 cards in the investment account arena. And again, a fantastic way to manage everything. But let me go back to this case list because I want to show you this little tip for mediators, and we're constantly adding things like this. So in order to visually represent in a case where, let's say, Marilyn and Tom are both on here working with a mediator, but there's a tremendous disagreement over the value of the house. Before we send them out to get an appraisal, you might want to just know how far apart are they. So in this case, let's just say Marilyn came in, she input 1.1 million. Tom can come in, or the mediator can add this and say, no, I have a different valuation. And you can choose which spouse. It's worth 2 million. You're crazy. And so here we have represented on this detail page a difference in value. And this is true for any asset. And then when I come back up to the summary card level, you can see as you're scrolling through, okay, so this is going to be an issue. And, let's assume there are several others. It kind of gives you a grounding as to what's going on with this family and where some of the mediation attention will be. And because this asset no longer has an agreed to value, everything switches to TBD. So we actually don't have a net worth for this family. And if I click on the net worth report, you can see here, we've pulled it in. So this is a little reminder. It's what we call a tooltip. We've got two different values here, and we're not able to provide a net worth until we solve this. So some cases might have a lot of yellow on the page, but at least it gives you a roadmap for your mediation. So that's an example of kind of a tip and trick. And there are many others, but I don't want to get too bogged down in the details. But I think that's a pretty good overview of the platform. I don't see any questions. I don't comments. Does anybody have anything to add or to ask?
Anybody? I'm pretty familiar with it. So
And you've seen this so many times. You could probably give it better than I can now.
oh, that's fine. I always learn a little something new to to pass on, so that's totally fine. Let me see. I'm just going to.
I have a quick question.
Somebody has any? Oh, somebody had a question. Go ahead.
Sorry, I can turn my video on. I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about when you do those additions, are you paying a subscription fee for the person? Like, am I the mediator paying the subscription fee and then I can invite as many people as I want, or is there a limit, or how does that work?
Great question. So we got feedback to create a pricing structure based on caseload. Some practitioners only handle a few cases a year. Some handle a lot of cases a year. So the way it works is only one person pays for the case, and everyone invited, it's complimentary. And for the person who has the account and is paying for the cases, we have we start with a 5-case tier. So up to 5 cases, it's $39 a month. So I think that comes out to something like just under $8 a case a month. And then we have a 10-case tier, and then a 15-case tier, and then kind of onwards tier. So it's a caseload tier. So it might be that on your dashboard, you have 7 cases. You might be paying for 5, but you might have been invited to 2 cases. So you've got 7, but you're only paying for 5, that kind of thing. Is that, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much.
So Storey does offer, I guess, a discount or a promo, I guess, for amicable divorce members. And there's 2 sort of options that they're workshopping right now. Do you want to touch on those, Storey, for everybody?
Yeah, so we're always happy, you know, we are so proud of this, and we find that if you have an opportunity to use it with your clients, and always give us feedback, that's really the best thing. So we also feel it's incredibly affordable, but we want to make it even easier. So we have 2 options. You get a 2-week free trial as you sign up anyway, and then it's $39 a month. We want to give you 50% off that first month. So it's something like $19 for 6 weeks, because you have the 2 weeks free and then half price for a month. So that's one option. Or we're also testing this, and we'll roll it out eventually for everyone, but we want to offer ADN network members 1 free case. So it's not a time thing. It's not a money thing. You can log on for free, have one, create a case, work with your team, work with a client, and really live with it and see if it's something, gives you more of an opportunity to work on it. And then you can subscribe at your, on your timing. So I will follow up with Tracy with a link, because there's a special link you have to go through in order to have that free case assigned to your sign up. Or you can choose the 50% off, and I'll give you the code for that.
We'll send out both options. If you're not a member of our Facebook members only group, that's where I post the most information, but we'll also send it out via constant contact and a follow-up email to all members, so that everybody has that. If you are watching this video on behalf of somebody else, like Allison's doing today, for Ashley to report back, just let them know this video, this recording, we will also put privately on YouTube, so that any of our members who get that link can watch this video and watch this tutorial and get some more information about it. So with that being said, I'm going to stop the recording, but everybody who's on the call is welcome to stay and chat.